What is going on, everybody? Welcome into yet another episode of Dynasty 365, the Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast here at Fantasy and Frames. Tonight, kicking off our rookie content series, we are going to be going over our early pre-draft rookie QB and tight end rankings, debates within each position, going over what we agree on, what we disagree on within each position as well, including myself. I'm your host for tonight, Eddie Weingartner, and we have, just for you, all 5 rookie content rankers and contributors here at Fantasy and Frames with us on the show tonight. If you're watching live on YouTube right now and would like to support us, first of all, we appreciate it as always, but second of all, the best thing that you can do is like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel to make sure that you never miss a single show here on the Fantasy in Frames network. So, gentlemen, should we crack open these rankings?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So, we're going to start with QB and then transition to tight end. Talking about quarterback, we all know that there's a clear one-man tier. All 5 of us on the show, I'm sure with the case of many people as well, have Fernando Mendoza in his own tier at QB1. But on question. But Drew, I want to ask you specifically, where are you personally going to be ranking Fernando Mendoza, very likely headed to the Las Vegas Raiders, number 1 overall, in your Dynasty startup rankings once he is actually drafted come April?
Yeah, so looking at my current Dynasty rankings, which can be found at fantasyandframes.com, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the conversation for me starts around QB 10, which is where I have guys like Jackson Dart,
bullish,
Purdy, Bo Nix. Now that's where the conversation starts. I think that's where, whenever I was looking at the players, that's where like, okay, I could make an argument to slot him in here. But if I had to give you an answer right now, I think he ends up behind those 3 guys that I just mentioned, because I don't think he's going to run as much as Dart or Bo Nix. So I tend to give those guys an edge. And Purdy he's been so solid in such a great system. He's been a steady top 10 quarterback in points per game the last few years that I don't know if I can quite put him over Purdy. But so now I'm looking at quarterback 13 for me is Trevor Lawrence. Quarterback 14 is CJ Stroud. Now I'm around names where I'm more comfortable saying he's probably going to slot in here. And so now I don't ever make it official until they actually get drafted. I usually try to go through and put them in my Dynasty startup rankings as they're getting drafted, just as a fun exercise I like to do during the draft. So don't hold me to this, but right now it looks like he's probably going to slot in at QB 14 right between Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud. I personally don't mind the landing spot in Vegas. Obviously, you got to hope they upgrade the offensive line, but I love what they've already done with the coaching staff. He's got some solid weapons already out there between Bowers and Ginty, and then you have to think, or at least hope, that they'll continue to build around Mendoza and give him some more weapons. They've got, like, I think close to $90 million in cap room. So hopefully, they'll use some of that to help out their future franchise quarterback. And he's not a guy that I think is going to run a ton, but he's also not a complete statue. I think he can have a few hundred rushing yards per season. And I think he's going to find the end zone from time to time on the ground as well. I mean, we saw the crazy rushing touchdown in the national championship game. Like, that's not something that's going to be an every week thing from him in the NFL, but I think he can stumble into some rushing touchdowns and he'll have some rushing yards from time to time, but most of it's going to come from the pocket. And so, I think at the next level, he's going to be one of those quarterbacks. He's in a bucket with a lot of different guys where in the years where maybe the touchdown rate isn't as high, he'll probably finish somewhere in that like QB 8, 9, 10 to QB 15 range. But in those seasons where he might see a spike in passing touchdowns and the numbers might be inflated, in those spike years in his career, I do think he could have I think he has the skill and the talent to have a top 5 spike season, things along those lines. And so right now, I think probably right around that QB 14 range will be where he ends up, but I think you can make an argument to have him even higher.
I like that, Drew. I like how you pose that. I think that's perfectly fair enough to start that conversation for his dynasty value. Jorge, are you along the same lines as Drew, or do you have any different takes or thoughts on where Mendoza's dynasty value lies going forward?
It's funny. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence as one of the places you would slot him into. For me, it would be right in between Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence, who I have 16 and 17 in my dynasty rankings right there. I think you're spot on. I think people in recency bias are going to think about, oh, well, this guy, he's going to run and he has the ability. Look what he did in the national championship. And it's like, okay, let's temper those expectations. But, you know, I really wanted to put him like he could be in Purdy level, and he very well may have that opportunity and may pan out that way. But I think there are a lot of holes to fill on this Vegas team that not
there are, yeah,
the anointing oil just yet. Like I don't view him as like a franchise altering quarterback who is just going to cover up any deficiency that they may have on offense. But I do think that they're starting to put the pieces in place. One would hope that they address the offensive line, both in free agency. Now, as for those who don't know, there was talk coming out of the combine today that the 49ers may actually release Trent Williams if they can't find a contract number that they can agree upon. Can you imagine if Trent Williams went to Vegas? Now we're talking some serious, dynasty value, and I may be bumping up Mendoza after the draft is all said and done.
Yeah, Joseph Harlow, going to you. I want to stand while we're on Mendoza, and I want to pose a little comparison scenario to you, if you wouldn't mind. So,
please do.
Mendoza, unquestioned QB1. Comparing him to guys like last year, first-round guys like Cam Ward and Jackson Dart specifically, how do you bucket or compare all three of those guys between these two classes, specifically as prospects?
So I wasn't a big Jackson Dart guy. I'm still not. I will be the low man on him for have been, will continue to be. Cam Ward, I did have as and I have him pretty similar to Mendoza. They're both have as blue chip prospects, like true first round picks. They're worthy of first round take with the quarterback tax. They're worth the first overall pick, I believe. So I think they're pretty similar. I am going to end with almost the same grade on the two of them, completely different players. I know looking into previous classes, I'd have them above where I had, or above or just right near where I had McCarthy and Daniels, who had well after May and Williams, similar to is like a second tier quarterback or second tier NFL, can get to tier 2 of NFL quarterback play. Again, I don't think there'll be a top 5 like NFL quarterback. I agree with what Drew said, where he could have a top 5 year here and there, especially if with Brock Bowers, if they're able to get another receiver, like how we've gotten Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. If we can get something similar, I could see some blow up years from him. But as a whole, I think he's going to be a high end QB2 fantasy wise, and similar to where I have Ward, and continue to think about him if the situation doesn't implode, like which fair with Tennessee for Ward, Dart with the Giants, and the Raiders. They all have taken a quarterback early lately for a reason. Bad franchises. So
yeah, I got to jump on Joe's statement here. I agree, man. These guys are not that they're bad quarterbacks, but they're getting overdrafted. They've been overdrafted. They should not have been drafted as high as they are, but it's like teams are so desperate.
Which you get,
this day and age, to get the number one quarterback, right? They're so desperate to get those guys that they draft them. And are they that top end guy? I don't know if they are that top end guy. So I Cam Ward. Do I think Cam Ward's a top 10 QB? Probably not. Same thing with Jackson Dart. I like Jackson Dart as a QB for your team. But is Jackson Dart going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback over and over? We've already seen, like, he needs a rush. Well, when he rushes, he gets hurt, right? Like, he does a lot of stuff. So these things worry me. So I think the problem is a lot of teams are taking these guys high because they have to, right? If you're a GM and you don't take a quarterback high, they're going to get fired. Well, when you take them high and they're not good, you get fired, right? So
I do also think these two, specifically Ward and Mendoza, that I think they could end up being top 10 NFL quarterbacks, but their styles, I think they need so much more to go right to get into top 5 fantasy level.
Oh, I agree with you. So,
yeah.
Joe, that's a great point, Joe. Is these guys, I actually think they both have the skills. I think that they do have the skill level. You got to put the guys around them, though, right? I think they could do it if you put the right guys around and you put them on the right teams, I think both those guys would actually be pretty successful NFL QBs, and they could be successful fantasy QBs in the right situations. But man, if they just, we've seen these where quarterbacks just get crushed because they end up on a bad team forever, and they can never get anyone around them that helps them. And then people are like, that guy's terrible. Like, is he really terrible, or does he just have no help no matter what? So I actually do like Dart, and I do like Cam Ward. And I think they could be good. I actually think Mendoza could be good too. I think the issue for him is he needs them to actually help him. I think Brock Bowers is a good start. They got to get another wideout. They got to fix the O-line, right? If he goes to Vegas, they got to fix the O-line.
Yes.
If he gets crushed, he's screwed. But I do think he could be I don't think he's ever going to be a top 5 guy personally, but I think he could be a top 15 to 10 guy in the right system if they put the right people around him and he doesn't get killed because the O-line is terrible.
That's a good call.
That's a good point you bring up, JT, and it brings up a question that I think is worth asking and worth us kind of talking through, because we know how much the NFL landscape changes. We know how fast things change from year to year. Like you think about a player gets drafted, and 2 years ago, if a certain player would have went to this certain team, you're like, oh, he's completely cooked because he went to this awful team. But then fast forward 2 years, and they're one of the best teams in the NFL. It's just like things can evolve and change so quickly in this league. So once the NFL draft happens, these guys get a landing spot. How much do you guys value landing spot over just pure talent? Like, if you're like, hey, I believe in Fernando Mendoza, the player, but the Raiders stink, and so like I'm gonna knock him because of that, or are you more so a guy like landing spot be damned, this guy has the talent to overcome that, and so I'm gonna put my faith in that and not drop him because he went to a less than ideal spot? Like, how do you guys kind of weigh that into your process?
I'll jump in here quick. I'm personally I'm a talent over landing spot guy just in general. I understand that landing spot, especially for quarterbacks, matters a ton. The receivers you have around you, the protection you have around you, we can go on all night about it. But at the end of the day, you've scouted a player over a multiple year, in most cases, college career. So I think you should just stick with that prospect and stick with that talent evaluation over anything else, if that makes sense.
I'll jump in real quick and give my 2 thoughts. Quarterback landing spot to me is the number one end all be all.
Fair
if
enough.
they end up in a bad spot, like they're not getting another chance. Now, wide receiver, I'm taking the talent at wide receiver no matter what. If I'm drafting a wideout in fantasy, I'm taking the talent. I don't care if they're on the worst team in the league. I'm taking the talent because that guy's going to eventually end up on a decent team. Or even if the team is terrible, he should still crush fantasy-wise because he's the best player on the team. So to me, I think it goes, if you look at a level, I say wideout first. Wideout's the one I care least about landing spot because I want talent. I want talent over anything at wideout. Running back second, QB's third. Now, QB shouldn't be third, but the problem is when you don't hit, it's so hard to come back. The Sam Darnolds of 3-4 times you get down the line and you finally hit, it's so rare. So while quarterback should matter more, it just does it for fantasy because real life NFL does not give those guys enough chances.
Yeah.
They should give them more chances. Yeah. I'm 100% in like those guys should get more chances. They just don't. So I'm talent with wide receiver, running back, then QB, just because of that reason.
I will say
I tend to agree with JT. Oh, go ahead, Jorge.
I was going to say, playing in a super flex league though does give you some wiggle room in terms of like hitting and missing on quarterbacks. Like if you're going into it thinking like this is going to be my QB2, then it's okay to. I don't want to say it's okay to miss, but like it's forgiven to a certain degree. Like if you're off in your evaluations a little bit, or just the landing spot doesn't work out that well in a one quarterback league, then that changes things tremendously.
Yeah, and Jorge did speak to what you were saying. My thing was like the next step. Like if a guy doesn't hit right away,
right,
chances of him getting a realistic second chance is lower as a QB as opposed to a high-end wide receiver running back talent-wise. For me, fantasy-wise, how those guys have a better shot to get another chance and crush. Where QB, which I think is wrong, I'm going to tell you that right now. I think it's wrong, but people are just give QB so little chance to develop and hit. And when they miss, people are just out on him, even though they should get more shots. I'm just going to throw this my 10-second Sam Darnold post that I talked about forever. I've been talking about Sam Darnold for 2 years, and I told everybody, I was like, if he was on a good team with a good offense, he can be really good. I'm like, he's been on teams that are bad. He's been hurt. His best players have been hurt. He turns the ball over too much. We all know that. But he could be a really good quarterback on the right team. I've said this for 2-3 years now. Well, he freaking just won a Super Bowl, right? He just won a Super Bowl on a good team. He can do that. There's a ton of guys in the NFL who can do the exact same thing if they get the chance. Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, who we just talked about, right, Joe? Those guys could do the same thing as Sam Darnold on the right team if they got the shot, if they actually got the shot. The problem is we don't get that shot from most quarterbacks. Sam Darnold's a rarity that he gets the fourth time around, right? Fourth, fifth time around, he actually gets a shot to be a starter. Right. It almost never happens in the NFL because people just say, "Oh, I'm done with you. I'm done with you."
And that still took McCarthy getting it.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, people are done on JJ McCarthy, right? I'm like, all I see on Twitter is how are all the Vikings quarterbacks? Who can they get? Who can they get? I'm like, you guys are already out on JJ McCarthy. He's dead. Like, what's happening? But that's where we're at, right? Because that's what they do with QBs in the NFL. I will shut up and let everybody else talk after that. That was my rant on Sam Darnold. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. Just to provide context. Anyway, moving past Fernando Mendoza at the top, obvious QB1, we have a clear and obvious, at least it looks like to us here on screen tonight, a two-pack of guys, if you will, with Ty Simpson and Garrett Nussmeier directly behind Mendoza. But there's some dissension within the crew tonight for who's QB2 and who's QB3. Starting with Ty Simpson, right? Myself, Joe, and Jorge, us three have Ty Simpson as QB2. So I'm going to start with what I like as Ty Simpson, and then Jorge, I'll go to you. So what I like about Ty Simpson as QB2, first of all, I think it's a diamond on the class where I don't feel super confident here as Ty Simpson as QB2, but Simpson as a prospect. If you look at September, early parts of October last season at Alabama, he was like the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. NFL draft, he was getting legit top 10 buzz, clear QB1. Fernando Mendoza hadn't broken out yet, or at least to the level we know him as now. And his skill set, he's a pretty accurate passer, and he has a high football IQ, right? He spent 4 years at Alabama, but the problem is he didn't start till his fourth year at Alabama. If we look at the benchmark of 20 starts, he has just a tiny bit less than 20 starts, so there's that. Also, if we look at the specific skill set, I already mentioned the positives. The negatives, I think he has a good but not great arm, in my opinion. And when he gets rattled, he gets rattled. Like, when he's under pressure, whether it's from the pass rush or whatever else, he throws a lot of turnover-worthy balls and a lot of turnovers. So when it starts to spiral, unfortunately, it starts to go downhill fast where his negative play avoidance just isn't there, and he's very limited athletically and mobilely. So that's my little starter thing, if you will, on Ty Simpson. But Jorge, I know you got Simpson's QB2 as well. So is this more of, I have to put him QB2 because of a weak class? Or do you actually have some deeper thoughts on Ty Simpson?
A lot of what you said is kind of my thought process, especially when under pressure for Ty Simpson. So in the Power 4 conferences, when blitzed, he ranks third amongst all the quarterbacks in this draft class in big time throw percentage. He had, when blitzed, 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He in big time throw percentage, when you have less than 2.5 seconds to throw the ball, he's 6th in that big time throw percentage. So he makes these big plays in a short amount of time, which means he processes things quickly when things are breaking down around him. And then when you look at, just his overall performance, in less than 2.5 seconds in the pocket, he has thrown 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. So again, going back, processing speed, what team would draft Ty Simpson? Probably not a good team if they're looking for a quarterback, to be their starter potentially, assuming he's drafted as a potential starter. So if that's the case, like, you probably want a guy who's not going to crack under pressure, which he clearly has shown over the course of his career, especially this past year, that he is not that type of guy. When push comes to shove, he's actually very productive.
Yeah, all great points, all great positives and negatives for Ty Simpson. It'll be interesting to see how people view him in a weak class versus how good is he actually is. He has to sit for a year or so. Next, JT, going over to you guys. It looks like you and Drew have Garrett Nussmeier, the two of you, over Ty Simpson. So starting you, JT, specifically, what do you like about Garrett Nussmeier to the point where you prefer him over Ty Simpson as QB2 of this class?
So Simpson and Nussmeier are both coaches' kids. Yeah. I always think that's a big thing as a QB. It's a big thing. You grew up listening to your dad. I mean, I coach tackle football, and I'm nowhere near a D1 college football or NFL coach. I talk to my son every day about coverages, what we're doing, why we're doing this. I talk about it all the time. These kids have been inundated with this their whole life. These guys are talking to them about this. I think both these guys athletically are not, they're not at the top end. That's why people don't like them. They're not like, they don't have huge arms. They're not 6'4". They're not 260. They're both 6'1", 210, 215 with average arms. But here's what I look at these guys, a guy that I watched my entire life. I had a buddy that went to high school with Drew Brees. Went to college with Drew Brees at Purdue. A guy that just knows the game. We've seen this. I think both these guys know the game. I think they're underrated.
High IQ, yeah.
Because they just are not the stud athlete that we all want these days, but they're good. I think these guys are not going to be great early, but I think these are these guys are Kirk Cousins type of players. They're going to get drafted. They're going to just soak it up. They're going to listen to everything they need from their coaches, and they're going to work 100% at everything they do. Garrett Nussmeier, people are ripping him. They can rip him all they want. I've gotten insane amount of hates on every Discord, every Twitter page about how I still love Nussmeier. And people are like, no, he's terrible. I'm like, he was pretty freaking awesome last year for LSU. 4,000 yards. Guy was throwing the ball everywhere. The team was a disaster this year, and everybody just bailed on him, right? They just bailed on him. They're like, no, he's terrible. He's bad. I'm like,
he was hurt too. So.
He was hurt. He played hurt all year. People don't understand that. He played hurt all year.
He was
hurt. I think Garrett Nussmeier could be the biggest steal in this draft. To me, I'm telling you right now, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the Russell Wilson third-round draft pick that a team is going to be like, we changed the entire the whole trajectory of our franchise by taking this guy in the third round. Like the Seahawks did when they took Russell Wilson.
But you're telling me we're going to get 2 Mr. Unlimiteds now? That's too much. That's too much for this university.
No, it's unlimited, Jorge.
Unlimited.
He's not going to be that guy. I mean, let's not be honest. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like that Jorge. I mean, a guy that's that good in the third round, not tagged like Russell Wilson. I love the joke, though. I love the joke. But
True.
I just think Nussmeier, man, if you go back, people want to look at this year, and LSU was a nightmare. I mean, LSU was a nightmare. The whole team, everything about him, coach staff, everything about him. He was hurt. Go back to junior year. Look at what he did. Over 4,000 passing yards. He was in the Heisman race.
Yeah.
He does not have the strongest arm. I will give you that. You don't have to have that in the NFL.
He's a bit undersized.
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. 3 guys that did timing, that understood defenses, threw the ball right, could throw it deep, didn't have the strongest arms. None of those guys. Watch those guys pass.
So much of
None
that is like he might not have like your 95 arm strength on Madden, but he has way more than enough zip.
Exactly.
So much more
exactly.
of it. I mean, Josh
Joe is
Allen,
100% right. He's not going to throw you the freaking rocket, perfect spiral, but he's going to get it to you on time because he's going to read the defense and throw it just a hair earlier than everyone else because the other guy's going to be like, I have a strong enough arm. I'll just throw it whenever I'm ready. Those guys time it out. I think Garrett Nussmeier is super underrated. I will stay with this forever. People are hating me. They're like, I can't believe you like Nussmeier anymore. I'm actually loving it because I'm like, Steelers draft him in the 3rd round. I thought we were going to have to take a 1st-round pick on him. I'm like 3rd round. I have Garrett Nussmeier in every Devy fantasy league known to man. I have him every league, every C2C, every Devy league. I've got him everywhere.
JT,
I think he's going to be good. I know I did. This is my biggest rant of the night, so I'm going to like let everybody else go back and talk after I just went off like a maniac. I think people are going to be really mad when they look back and like, we all thought Garrett Nussmeier sucked because random people told us he was bad his senior year. Like he's really good, dude. I think people are super underestimating him. I'm all over at QB2. I still like Ty Simpson. So I'm not even telling you I don't like Ty Simpson. Garrett Nussmeier right now to me, if you get him in the 2nd or 3rd round, I think is going to be an absolute freaking steal in the draft. Absolute steal.
You just went complete NBA jam. JT is hitting up. Boom, shaka-laka-laka on Grant Nussmeier. That's pretty impressive.
I'm going to let everyone else talk the rest of the show because I just way overtook my time. But I feel super strongly about Nussmeier. I just think people forget he threw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns last year. That doesn't just happen. That's not an accident. That's not like, oh, I lucked out because everybody around me was good. 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns last year. Like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, that's a freaking great season. How many guys have we seen? To be honest, let's look back at it. I wish I had the numbers in front of me. Guys that crushed as a junior, had a down senior year, got drafted later in the draft because they had a down senior year, and then everybody's like, oh, that guy's awesome. We should have taken him earlier. Dan Marino, number 1 guy who had an awesome junior year, down senior year because of injury, fell through the draft, got taken way behind guys that they should have taken, and he should have been. So I'm just saying that he's no Dan Marino. I'm not going to say that. So I will put that right there. But
just making sure we were confused there for a second.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that, Jorge.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't want Jorge holding it on me.
You have ranted over Grant Nussmeier more than any other podcast in the history of podcasts. Tell me,
Justin, yes or no the rest of the show because I've talked too long. Yes or no on this guy. But I think Nussmeier is way underrated. I'm pumped about it because I think I'm going to get him so late in every draft, and I'm going to draft him everywhere.
Can you explain the concept of him being a coach's son and how that's important again? I'm kidding.
I would.
No,
Jorge, you're kidding.
That's a joke, JT. That's a joke.
I'll talk to you offline on that.
We don't want to be here until midnight.
We're joking,
yeah.
JT. We get it.
I know, Jorge. We'll talk about it later. I'm going to call you in the middle of the night. You're like, why are you calling me? I'm like, I'm going to talk to you more about Garrett Nussmeier right now in the middle of the night.
I was wondering if you had a few moments to talk about our Lord and Savior, Garrett.
Could you please give us some context?
Joe, you're a big fan of Ty Simpson, yay or nay?
I like Ty Simpson. However, JT went on this rant, and honestly, I don't know if he's the biggest Garrett Nussmeier fan on the show right now.
Oh, shit.
I think he's
that's impossible, but
I know my first show with Fantasy and Frames was last year's draft show, and JT and I bonded a bit over the Nuss bus. Again,
Not
I think the
anymore.
big thing with Nuss is he was playing through a lot. He talked about it at the Senior Bowl, which he shredded. He had an off-season shoulder dealio, which was super underreported. Then the oblique. Both of them are pretty similar stylistically, Simpson and Nussmeier. I like Nussmeier quite a bit more. I have Simpson higher. I do expect him to get drafted more or get drafted higher in the NFL draft, which that's a struggle that we have to balance as analysts. And then when it comes down to our fantasy drafts is what do we value? Landing spot, talent, capital. I know, like, I was a Riley Leonard guy last year, but he went in the 6th round. So there's no way I could justify taking him over Jackson Dart, even though I liked Leonard as a prospect more than Dart. But obviously one went in the first round, one went in the 6th.
I agree with you. That's what you should do, though. But I agree. I have Simpson over Nussmeier, even though I like Nussmeier more. I'm the same with you. I love Leonard last year, but you knew he was going to get a leader. So as an analyst, especially for fantasy football, people need to realize we like certain players, but we can't be stupid about it. We can't tell you the guy we like that's going to go in the 6th round and tell you we like him over the guy in the 2nd round. Even when we do like the guy better, you can't push that to people, right? Because that's just bad. That's bad business. You gotta sell the guy that's going to go earlier. I think Ty Simpson is going earlier than Nussmeier. Absolutely 100%. I like Nussmeier more. So that I agree with Joe, what he's talking about, his analysis right now on that. Because we like guys better doesn't mean they're going to go earlier.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So moving past the top 3, we have the obvious top 3 in some order of Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, consensus-wise. But when we get to QB4, we're kind of all over the place. We're scatterbrained here on the show, if you would. So let's go around the frames and just touch on who we have as QB4 as we sit here tonight. Jorge, I'll start with you. Who is your QB4 of this class at the moment?
So it's Diego Pavia. You know, when we look at, again, one of these things I like to think about when I'm evaluating the quarterback positions, particularly, is like, you know, you can throw out all the inflated stats all you want, and you could talk about strength of schedule, and you could talk about competition and so on and so forth. But I like to look at, you know, when you know what hits the fan, how do they respond? You know, so again, going back to when blitz in the Power 4 conferences, number 1 graded quarterback when blitzed per PFF, number 1 in adjusted completion percentage when blitzed, number 2 in touchdowns scored when blitzed. That's 17 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. It has the 7th lowest turnover worthy play percentage when blitzed. We're talking about, again, in the Power 4, throwing for 3,180 yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions with a 71.2% completion percentage. I had to double check this because I was like, 907 rushing yards? 907 rushing yards. Like, I get it. He's a small quarterback. You know, he's only 6 feet tall with 243. You nitpicky motherfucker. Okay, yes, I get
That's
it.
That's a big difference, but
okay. Well,
moving
6 feet tall. Okay,
huge difference.
Per PFF. I know, huge difference. No, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you have the dual threat, you have the mobility there. And you see what he's like I said, you see what he's able to do when he's under duress. So yeah, I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, those rushing yards are very impressive, especially considering in college that I think it's stupid, but they take away rushing yards per sacks taken. So
it's insane. Why?
I don't
dude, that is I will say that's my biggest complaint of all time.
He would have had 1,000 if it didn't do that.
College has to change that rule. You've done everything. We're paying players. We're throwing everything out. How are we not changing the rule where a sack or a kneel down is negative yards for a QB? It's ridiculous. I hate it. It's my number one across every sport. Is my number one most hated rule is that sacks count against rushing yards for quarterbacks in college and in high school. It's stupid. Change that rule. It's dumb.
Yeah, like you'll see a stat sheet. You see this, a guy will have -2 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Okay, that doesn't add up, but whatever. Anyway, Joe, I'm gonna let you introduce this one because you and JT have the same QB4 of this class.
I like Drew Aller. He's a frustrating player, but in this class, I should say I like him.
Definitely is.
He has the talent to be a top 5 pick. He's one of those guys who he's coming off a major injury, which really stunk to see for the end of this year, which could have been huge for him. But he is throwing at the combine, was just announced today, which will be exciting to see. He has all the tools, big arm for a really big quarterback. He's going to be 6'5", 230, 240, something like that.
Yeah,
he's what he'll measure in at. He's got some pretty decent mobility. I just wish it's a similar thing with Justin Herbert, who I'm the Herbert fan out there, but just would kind of wish he'd be more of an idiot sometimes and just let it loose.
Be more
but
stupid.
In the times he has done it, like in the the semifinals last
he's
season,
too safe. Yeah,
and when he rips it, it's like, why is that the shot you took? There's such a disconnect with trying to be too safe, and then when he goes, he just blacks out completely and forgets everything.
Yeah,
it's frustrating, but with the mobility, the talent, again, in this class, I'm willing to take an upside shot. So,
yeah,
big talent.
I will just say my Alar pick. I am taking him at 3rd, 4th round in every draft. I will take him late in every draft.
Might as
Just
well
for what
upside,
Joe said, upside's there, man. He could end up being just a bomb and just be out of the league in 5 seconds. He really could. But
third,
the
fourth
talent
round
is there. Take the shot on him in super flex or 2 QB leagues. You have to take the shot on him in a 3rd, 4th round because he has that ability. He has such a huge upside, so huge as a QB4 in this draft. So I'm all over that. I'm taking him everywhere. If I get to that in a super flex or 2 QB league.
No, I like that in a weaker QB class going for upside there. Okay. Drew, I knew this guy would come up. I knew your love for him would come up eventually on the show. So go ahead and talk about your guy for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't love the outlook for the quarterbacks outside of the top 3 in this class. I think the top 3 we've already talked about. I think they're the 3 that I feel most confident about getting draft capital, getting at least one, if not multiple shots to be a starter. Once you get outside those top 3 guys, I think we're looking at a lot of potential career backups. So I figured, why not take a shot on the toolsy quarterback with virtually no experience at the college level? I mean, it's not like I've been a huge fan of guys like Trey Lance or Anthony Richardson that fit that description over the past few years and gotten completely burnt. So what could go wrong, But the difference with Peyton is that he's projected. But Peyton is projected to go later in the NFL draft, and he should be cheaper in Dynasty rookie drafts. So, if I am once again wrong on these inexperienced, toolsy quarterbacks, at least I won't get burnt near as much as I did whenever I was investing in Richardson and Trey Lance and those guys. But even though the college experience was minimal, it's hard not to get excited about what Cole Payton showed us. He had a 70% career completion percentage, just a 2.1% interception rate, 11.2 yards per attempt, which is absurd. And he showed the rushing upside as well. He had almost 900 rushing yards in his final college season. So the lack of experience is definitely a red flag, has been a red flag, historically in the past. The one that I've personally, like I said, I've gotten burned on in recent years. But whenever I look at these quarterbacks outside of the top 3 that I'm confident are going to get the draft capital that we want, he's the one that he jumps off the page to me. I think he has the most to be excited about. I think he has the most for NFL teams to be excited about. And I think whenever I'm looking at these quarterbacks that you might be spending later picks on, I want to swing for the fences. I want to look for the guys that could end up turning into potential top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. Not to say that there's a high likelihood that's going to happen, but I think there's a lot more upside there with Peyton than some of the other names that are around him in rookie rankings right now. And so, unless he something happens and he goes undrafted or something like that, then, I'll have to reconsider. But yeah, if memory serves me correctly, I think I've even been seeing some recent hype and steam around his name heading into the combine. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think there's a lot to be excited about with the tools that he has at his disposal. And I just hope that he lands in an organization that isn't looking at him to start right away. He has time to develop behind an established quarterback and, get some work in. Because I think the tools are there. And if he can develop, I think that there could be something for us to be very excited about whenever you combine what he is as a passer along with his willingness as a runner and his skills in that aspect as well.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see for fantasy purposes and draft purposes how the NFL weighs limited college starts versus a toolsy guy like Cole Payton. Anyways, guys, for all you watching,
I will tell before we move into tight ends, where it's like, what are you talking about, JT? Before we move into tight ends, the one guy I would keep an eye on is Luke Altmaier from Illinois. If he ends up going to a decent draft spot behind a QB where he could be the QB2, I really like him. I think he has a shot to be like a really decent backup most of his career. But if you're on a team like a Superflex 2 QB team and there's not a clear-cut second guy behind him, that's a guy I want to keep an eye on. Not going to overwhelm you, but solid as can be. He's a guy you need to be looking at late in drafts, especially if he goes to a team that you have the starting QB on. That's my last word
similarly
on QBs before Jorge punches through the screen at me and kills me. So
I feel similarly as JT said with Altmaier and Drew was saying with Cole Payton about Sawyer Robertson and Ethan Kaliakmanis from Baylor and Rutgers.
Thank you for pronouncing that, because
Kaliakmanis.
Yeah,
I got you. Both of those guys have pretty good mobility and absolute rockets. Do they know where they're going?
No.
But they're guys who, with some decent starts, Kaliakmanis I think is a better projection to be a backup, but both have the talent to take a shot.
I think Taylor Green could be in that conversation as well. Another guy that has a ton of rushing upside.
We're in quarterbacks, not tight ends, Drew.
Yeah, very raw.
I agree. I think Taylor Green.
Sorry,
that is
so good.
He's the Joe Milton, Logan Thomas scale. Like, where's he going to
Milton was the exact comp I had for him as well. Yeah, that was good though.
That was smooth.
Okay.
I love that.
Anyway,
we saved 18 minutes for tight ends, so we're good to go. Here we go.
Well, I just want to finish off with quickly. My current QB for this draft class is Carson Beck. So historically, I have not been a Carson Beck guy / fan, like at all. But I'll admit, I've come around a lot on him this past season at Miami. Obviously, national championship runner-ups to Mendoza, as discussed, and Indiana as a whole. But Carson Beck, he may be limited athletically, like very limited athletically, but he's got pinpoint accuracy. And while he doesn't take huge, big swings downfield, he doesn't take risks. He's a cerebral, much risk either. He's a cerebral passer. He has a ton of college starting experience. So for fantasy purposes, am I telling you this is going to be a guy that has a lot of upside or even a decent, solid amount of upside? Maybe not. Probably not actually is the case. But it's a very solid floor play. You always need these guys of a third QB in a super flex type format. Absolutely. So anyways, guys, before we move over to the tight ends, for all of you, everyone watching out there, if you would like to enjoy even more of our audio content on the audio side of things just like this, you can search for every single podcast here at Fantasy and Frames by name on your podcast platform of choice. For us specifically, please subscribe to the Dynasty 365 podcast. The support would, as always, mean the world to us. Also, if you're looking for any other additional written content, please head over to our site, fantasyandframes.com. You can find IDP advice, Dynasty startup advice, redraft advice. We'll get going in the near future. Whatever you need / want, we got you covered. Anyways, guys, should we hop into rookie tight ends?
Let's do it.
Yep. So let's see. There's a clear top two at the tight end position. But there's been some buzz lately on who's actually tight end one between the two, between Eli Stowers and Kenyon Sadiq. It's not as clear as QB because 3 of us have Kenyon Sadiq as our top tight end of the class, and 2 of us have Eli Stowers as our tight end one of the class. So let's just say we're pretty mixed on this show, if you would. Joe, I want to start with you. If you wouldn't mind, please talk to us about specifically why you prefer Kenyon Sadiq over Eli Stowers and how close you really think they are.
I don't think they're very close. I think Sadiq is a significantly better football player than Eli Stowers. Stowers is a freak athlete. Sadiq is a freakier athlete. Stowers, I think, is good. I think he's a worthy second-round pick for NFL, not fantasy. Fantasy and a tight end premium, take him in the first round. But Sadiq is just another level. I know the production wasn't great, but this is where the film really puts him on another level. He's an all-around tight end, even though he's not the biggest, 6'3", 245. He was used as a lead blocker and a fullback often and was good at it. He's probably the top 3 blocking tight end in this class, despite being maybe the best athlete as well. That full package, I know a thing that if you've followed me or have heard me at all, know that with receivers and tight ends, no block, no rock is the thing I super believe in.
Yeah.
If you can't block, you're not going to get the opportunities to be on the field.
Yeah.
That's my big concern with Stowers, why I have a Max Claire above Stowers. But not for fantasy, but on NFL wise, I think Claire is closer to Sadiq than Stowers is.
So that raises a question I want to ask you. It sounds like you don't think Stowers, at least immediately, is a every down tight end then in the NFL.
No, and he wasn't at Vanderbilt either. He only played, I think, 300 snaps this year.
Because of the lack of blocking,
He is an absolute liability there. And granted, a lot of that is that he'll be 23 on draft night, but he's
undersized.
Yeah, he started as a quarterback. He's only been playing this position since he lost the quarterback battle to Diego Pavia, actually, at New Mexico State. But there's some room there to grow, but I think he's going to be in the very low snap percentages for the first year or 2 years. Doesn't mean he can't get there, but for now, I think Sadiq's going to be a 85% target or snap share, not target share. That'd be crazy.
That would be so
snap share from day one.
Drew, I want to go over to you because you're on the totally opposite side of this. Why do you prefer Stowers between the two?
I mean, it's not as opposite as it would seem. I do have these two in the same tier, so I don't have a huge argument for if you prefer Sadiq over Stowers. I think it makes a lot of sense because I agree a lot with what Joe said. I do think Sadiq profiles as much more of a full-time tight end right off the rip. He is without question a better blocker. And he also has the athletic ability. It's just whenever you look at the college production profiles of the two players, I just think Stowers has one that more closely resembles what an elite pass catching tight end at the next level would typically look like. His best receiving yardage season was 769 compared to 560 for Sadiq. Stowers had a career 2.34 yards per route run compared to 1.72 for Sadiq. And then they were pretty similar whenever you look at yards per reception and yards after catch across their college career. And honestly, a lot of my biggest concerns are very similar to what Joe was alluding to, that I don't know if the draft capital is going to be there for Stowers, where it's pretty much a lock at this point. Sadiq's going to go in the first round. And if Stowers ends up being like a later second round pick or a third round pick, now we have to deal with the worries of Stowers getting the Dalton Kincaid type of deployment where he's only out there for like 50-ish% of snaps. Whereas, again, echoing what Joe said, I have a lot more confidence that Sadiq will be a full-time player right from the jump. And so if that ends up being the case, if Stowers does slip in the draft and a team doesn't show that confidence of we believe in this guy and what he brings to the table, we're willing to spend this early draft capital on. It doesn't need to be first round even, but just early second round capital. If he doesn't fall in that range, I'll likely end up flip-flopping these guys, and that's why I have them in the same tier. But I think Stowers has, whenever you look at the college production profiles, I think Stowers is more appealing in that aspect. But I always defer to draft capital over my own research once we get through the process. And so with these guys being in the same tier for me, I'm not going to be shocked if after draft day I have them flip-flopped and I have Sadiq there. But I love what Stowers brings to the table as a receiver, and hopefully he can develop the rest of his game to be more than a 50% snap share player. But he's definitely somebody that we're going to have to see what the draft capital looks like and see what we can kind of try to forecast of how that team might deploy, because it's going to make a big difference.
I want to bounce off that a little bit and kind of bring Stowers up. I know a big thing I talked about in the article that I did, the early look at tight ends, is that 12 and 13 personnel is being used so much more. So is that going to take away some of the issues with blocking? It could, and I hope it does. Stowers, like you said, Drew, is the receiving profile is insane.
Right.
If he lands in the Rams or one of those type of schemes, hopefully not the Rams with Ferguson, but but like one of those McVay Shanahan schemes where they use a lot of tight ends, that's really gonna bring him up a lot. And even if he is at 50% use, then he's going to get targets on a high share of those, I think.
Yeah, I love what both of you guys said about that because, like, I think Sadiq is a better overall tight end because of the blocking and everything. But Stowers, for fantasy-wise, if he gets in the right team, the right concept, man, he could be awesome. But if he gets in the wrong concept, the wrong team, he could be a complete disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be a guy that's like unplayable. Like, why do you have him on your team? So I agree 100% below you guys. Sadiq's the better player. He's the better overall tight end. Stowers could be the number one fantasy guy if he ends up on the right team that uses him as a slot big tight end who does. He's faux blocking 90% of the time and then running patterns on linebackers where he's way more athletic. Then he could crush. I watched him a ton this year. Stowers I think he's elite, man. I think Stowers is elite, but he's got to be on the right team. If they don't use him, it's going to be bad.
Well, you think about why would a team draft a player? And, one would think that it's because of a particular set of skills and usage that they've had over their collegiate career. You look at the slot percentage for Stowers over the course of his collegiate career, 70.3% of his snaps throughout his entire college career, he's played in the slot. So clearly the usage has been there. We've seen the efficiency in yards per out run and yards after the catch for reception. So, I mean, it would have to be like 2000 to 2015 Washington Commanders level of stupidity of picking the wrong players for the wrong schemes for that to
not personal.
Good call, Jorge knows.
And I'm a Commanders fan, so I can.
I was say Jorge knows from experience.
He's speaking from some
the
pain
heart.
there.
From a lot of pain, Drew. From a lot of pain.
We ask
Right
those
in the
type
heart,
of
right in
questions
the
all
heart.
the time, and sometimes it doesn't make sense what NFL team does. First of all, I love the particular set of skills line. Just immediately, my mind, went to some beautiful action movies there. But I think another conversation for a completely other day is like, I think we might need to talk about how good Terrence Ferguson is. Like, if we know how good Kenyon Sadiq is, and Terrence Ferguson was able to keep him off the field last year,
right?
But before he got drafted to the Rams, we might need to have some conversations about how good Terrence Ferguson actually is and how excited we should be for him.
What a coincidence!
I was
talk
all
about
Ferguson.
But I'm
we'll get into it now. But I was like, Ferguson was my favorite like stash guy for like 2 years. I was like, he's gonna be awesome in 2 years if you just wait on him.
Yeah, we're not doing that right now. That's a topic for another day. I just had to throw that out there because I think it's easy to forget just 1 year removed of what these college rosters look like and things like that. And then now you see these guys that were teammates of his getting drafted in the first round. Nonetheless, there is one tight end we mentioned already. Joe actually mentioned that for NFL purposes, he has him above Stowers, Aiden. And so the next guy up, Max Clare, why don't you talk to us about Max Clare a little bit?
Yeah, so our Fantasy and Frames consensus between all of us at the site is Max Clare from Ohio State, and that just happens to be my personal tight end 3 as well. So real quick, skill set here. Historically, Ohio State doesn't really utilize their tight ends a ton. And Max Clare had a pretty productive year last year, but I feel like there's a lot of meat left in the bone there. I'm not guaranteeing you he's an every down tight end, but he could be an every down tight end because I think he's a solid blocker and a solid receiver. I think it will just depend on draft capital. Like if he gets early day 2 draft capital, I think people will be excited. If he gets late day 2 draft capital, maybe not so much. But
I will just say real quick, I loved Max Clare at Purdue. I thought he was amazing at Purdue. He went to Ohio State. We knew the production was going to fall, right? There's no way it was going to stay because of all the awesome wide receivers and running backs they had. I loved Max Clare at Purdue.
They put 15 pounds on him so he could be a good blocker.
Exactly. I think Max Clare is going to be super underrated. I'm just telling you that right now. I think he's going to be a monster underrated tight end. I like Max Clare a ton. Depending on where he gets drafted, he could actually end up being my number 1 tight end in this class. He's 3 for me right now. But if he goes to the right system where people look at him, they're like, oh, we know how to use this guy. Max Clare could go to 1 for me because he was my number 1 in Devy 2 years ago. And we don't usually talk about Devy tight ends. Everyone's like, Devy tight ends, what is that? No one talks about those.
Yeah, we don't care about
Like,
it.
we don't do Devy. We don't do Devy tight ends. Tight ends don't count. He was my number 1 Devy tight end 2 years ago. If he can get the right system, I actually think this guy could be really freaking good.
Better
So
NFL
I think he's so underrated right now. I think he's super underrated right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up and let you guys talk.
I will say I think that it makes a lot of sense to give Max Clare a pass whenever it comes to any production concerns you might have, whenever you consider the fact that he's playing at the wide receiver factory and all the guys that he's had to compete with for targets. Like, I don't think we could be that mad at him for not being more productive than what he was. But even in saying that, I mean, he still had over 680 yards in his best college season, 1.74 yards per route run, which is solid, 11.4 yards per reception, 5.6 yards after the catch. They're not elite jump off the page numbers, but they're also not numbers that like, whoa, those are huge red flags to where it looks like this guy's just not going to be a pass catcher at the next level. Like I tend to agree with these guys that I think from an NFL standpoint, I think Max Clare is more built to be an every down tight end than Eli Stowers is right now. But I just think from a receiving profile, I think Stowers has the edge there, which is for fantasy purposes why I give him the edge in my rankings. But yeah, to JT's point, if Max Clare gets solid draft capital and lands in an offense that needs pass catching and doesn't have a lot of weapons around wherever he lands, then he could absolutely end up being a riser. He has the talent. He just didn't necessarily always have the chance to display it because, whenever you're catching passes along Jeremiah Smith and
Pretty good.
Tate and, these other guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Ohio State wide receiver room, but those guys are pretty solid, so it's like you can't really hold
the
that
Rutgers game against Kaliak Monis and co. Tate and Smith were out, and he had 7 of 8 for 105 and touchdown.
There you go.
Yeah, and people forget, like before he transferred to Ohio State, he was at Purdue. 12 games his junior year before he transferred, 51 catches, 685 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yeah. Those are elite tight end numbers in college. Those are elite tight end numbers. 51 catches. With I'm not going to tell you who the Purdue quarterback was because he was terrible. But he had 51 catches for 685 and 4 touchdowns before he transferred. So I think Clare might be one of the most underrated guys in this draft. I'm just telling you that right now. Yeah. 3rd, 4th round fantasy drafts, I will take him all day, every day if he gets to me. Probably late 2nd round, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Jorge. So interestingly enough, speaking of Clare, you're the one person that kept Clare from being unanimous across the board here for tight end 3. So why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, talk to us about your actual personal tight end 3 in this class, Justin Joly from NC State?
Well, I like the fact that Joly, has played 52.5% in the slot over the course of his career. We've seen consistency in his yards per route run with 1.8, 1.84, 1.8 this past year. He did have a little dip in his yards after the catch per reception, and we did notice that coming a lot from his inability to get separation in man coverage. So one of the things that I do like about him is his overall efficiency. Not being able to separate, not really being able to. You would think that with that lack of separation, he would be limited in his production, but the guy that had 7 touchdowns, he was like number 2 tight end in all of the Power 4. So that's something to be said there. And let's not forget, he has also been showing in terms of the route runs metric, yards per route run metric, he ranks higher than Max Clare in that department. So, again, it goes back to, what we've been saying as far as like draft capital usage, but like efficiency wise, performance wise, usage wise, like, he does a lot of things better than Max Clare. So it's kind of where granted we're pulling straws here or hairs here. Like we're talking about 3 and 4 respectively. So
love Jolly. So I'm with Jorge here. I
keep talking. You're good. You're good. Keep talking.
That's Clare just ahead of him, but he's right behind him for me. And again, I think Clare is a more full-rounded tight end if he gets on the right team.
100%.
Jolie, I think, is a better fantasy guy if he's on the right team. I'm with Jorge on that. I think, dude, I love him. I like Justin Jolie. I think he's really good. I have had him on C2C and CFF teams the last 3 years. I think this guy could be legit good if he's on the right team. They just got to use him right, you know? We talk about this all the time. Tight ends, like, okay, is your team going to use you right? Does your Rondé Gatson, perfect example last year. Let's just talk about it right now. Rondé Gatson, I loved Rondé Gatson. I've known him at Syracuse forever. I'm a big Syracuse fan. I was like, he needs to land in a great spot where they're not making him block, and it'll be awesome. Yeah. Where does he go? He goes to Chargers. They don't make him block. He's awesome. He's great. Jolie and Stowers, if they can get that kind of setup, they're going to be really good. They're going to be really good where they use them correctly. So that's my biggest thing. I really like this tight end class. I think this tight end class is loaded.
I agree.
Landing spot for this class is going to be very interesting. And I'm going to see guys go way up and down depending on where they land because so many of these guys are good, but some of these guys are like overall tight ends, and some of these guys are like, I'm a wide receiver tight end. I'm a slot tight end.
Well, I mean,
just throw me the ball. And other guys like, I can block and do other things. And depending on how the team's going to use them is going to make a total difference.
Yeah, I mean, Jolie literally was a wide receiver whenever he first came into college.
Exactly what he is.
So yeah, I mean, he quite literally was a wide receiver. I think Jolie's like an Aldi's version of Eli Stowers, basically.
He is a really blocker too, which is super helpful.
Yeah.
He's not good, but he tries.
Yeah, but there's one, at least as far as our consensus top 5 tight end rankings goes, there's one tight end.
I mean, we're talking about like Fannin last year. I mean, unbelievable stats in college. So, but we all knew Harold Fannin was like, you got to throw the ball to him. You can't let him do anything else. If he does anything else, it's bad. It's bad. You have to let him run patterns and just throw it to him. When he did it, he was really good. Really good, especially for fantasy. So that's what we need.
Yep.
That's what we need. We need a Jolly. We need a Stowers landing spot that is Harold Fannin, where he's not really the blocking tight end. Their wideouts suck. And he becomes the best guy because they're the slot guys that the quarterbacks need to just dump it off to all the time. That's when we'll crush fantasy-wise.
I completely agree. And while you're on a roll, I'm just going to let you keep going, JT, because there's one consensus top 5 tight end on the Fantasy and Frame site we hadn't talked about yet, and that's Michael Trigg out of Baylor. So why don't you talk a little bit about him and what your feelings are about him at the next level?
I'll jump quick into Trigg because I know I've been talking too much. Trigg is like, he's got the size, the ability. He's a guy that if you've been paying attention to C2C, Devi forever, he's been on the list for 5 years.
Right.
I mean, 5 years, people have been waiting for Michael Trigg just to break out. And he hasn't. He's transferred, I don't even know how many times at this point, 3, 4, 5 times. Ended up at Baylor last year. Really good. But here's the thing with him. Man, he makes some great plays, and then he looks terrible at other times. he catches some insane balls, and then he just drops the one right in his hands. And you're like, I feel like it was me in junior high basketball where I was like, easy layup, missed it. Guy hit me across the face, I made it. That's Michael Trigg. No one around him drops the pass. Someone all over him, and he makes the catch. It's Michael Trigg. He is infuriating sometimes. He could be really good at the next level, but he's like the most boomer bust tight end in this draft for me. He could be great, but man, he could be the worst because he's been all over the place on that. He makes every catch or drops the easy catches. Yeah. He has the size, everything you want, everything you need, but he's also 5-6 years now in. You're like, okay, none of the statistics you want to see, right, Drew? None of the early breakout, none of the stats that hit you early. He was a high-end 5-star recruit. it just hasn't. And I'm always iffy when the guy transfers 4 or 5 times. To me, I'm just like, if you can't make it where you're at, like that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
So I think Trigg has ability. I will definitely take flyers on him in fantasy drafts, but man, he's the guy he's the last guy I'm taking a flyer on because I think he could hit, but I think it's a really low percentage.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think. Drew, Joe, you guys tell me what you think about Trigg. I like the overall ability, but man, I'm really iffy on whether he can actually sustain.
Yeah, I mean, he's in that next. He's the next edition of former basketball recruit turned football tight end. Like there wasn't a lot there his first 3 years in college. He really didn't start getting involved in the offense until year 4, and then year 5 at Baylor was his best year, where he had 694 yards receiving. He had 6 touchdowns. I mean, his per snap metrics, his yards per route run 1.87, career yards per reception 13.1, yards after the catch 4.9. Like, it's nothing that's going to jump off the page, but it's also nothing that's like, shit, this guy's undraftable either. He's kind of, I think he's a tier below the top 3 that we've talked about. They are consensus top 3 anyway, between Sadiq, Stowers, and Max Clare. I do think he's a tier below those guys. But like you said, if he can put it all together, he has the athletic ability. He has solid size as well. He's put on some decent weight. So I think there could be something there, but it's not as clear cut as, like, I don't have as much confidence as I do a guy like Max Clear at the next level for sure.
Yeah, Joe, is there anything you would like to get off your chest with Michael Trigg, maybe?
I'm not a Michael Trigg guy at all. I have him at tight end 15 for NFL, and I think it's way too high, to be honest. I see the talent. I just don't think anything he does is really translatable. Also, you have to factor in the Baylor offense. It's not a real offense. We see so many receivers from there who, it's obviously you can't helmet scout, but the trends are a lot of the stuff that they learned there. It isn't NFL systems. He's going to have to learn everything over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's just he has nothing translatable at this point except for the contested catches, which I mean the guys in the NFL are significantly better than the Big 12.
Joe, are you an injuries, Delp, or Kozo guy over Trigg?
Injuries? All 3 of them, actually.
I agree. Okay, I just want to see what you said.
For NFL. Injuries
for NFL, I'm an injuries guy as well. That's why I want to know what you said.
Yeah. So, guys, we've talked about the top 5, obvious, at least now on my consensus tight ends tonight. But to end off in a little fun exercise, let's go around the frames and shout out our favorite tight end prospect outside of that range that we'd be pounding the table for. And, Drew, we're going to start with you because you have a big guy literally here in tight end, Daquan Wright from Ole Miss.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like I need to put a disclaimer out there that my prospect evaluation process this time of the year is like 70% analytics and 30% film, like at this point in February. And for the guys that aren't like top 5-ish at quarterback or tight end, what we're talking about today, or like top 10-ish at other positions, it's more like 90% analytics and 10% film. So I haven't watched a lot of film on these guys farther down in the rankings, but for the spreadsheet guys, my God, does this guy jump off the spreadsheet? He's got solid size, 6'4", 255. He had a best receiving yardage season of 635 yards, which isn't elite, but it's solid. Same with his 1.82 yards per route run numbers. But the athleticism really shines whenever you look at the fact that he had a career 14.2 yards per reception and 8.4 yards after the catch. Kind of gives you an idea of what his fantasy upside could look like if he lands in the right spot where he's used in a receiving aspect and can make that type of an impact if he gets the chance. And again, whenever it comes to tight ends, there's a lot of wish casting you have to do of, I hope he gets the draft capital. I hope he lands on a team without a ton of receiving threats. I hope he lands on a team with a good quarterback. I hope he lands with a coaching staff that's going to utilize him the correct way. Like, there's a lot of boxes we're hoping for here, but I mean, that's how you try to find these diamonds in the rough. And if things line up correctly for him, I think that there's a lot to be excited about from a fantasy perspective. I haven't done a ton of work to know how he projects as a full-time tight end. But from a pass catching standpoint, from an athleticism standpoint, for what we care about for fantasy purposes, there's a lot to be excited about. So he's definitely a guy that I will be keeping a close eye on in the NFL draft process to see where he lands and how that might shake out.
Yeah. Jorge, who do you think should be getting more love right now at the tight end position in this class?
I feel bad for Rohan Jones, man. Like the guy from Arkansas doesn't get
He's
he doesn't get a combine invite, and all this talk about like, well, he's not that big of a guy. I'm like, well, I mean, he's 6'3", 242, not your prototypical tight end nowadays, but he's my lowest ranked tight end so far. As we're talking, February 24th here, 2026. That being the case, like everything checks out. He's graded well as one of the best tight ends in this class overall. You look at his yards per route run, 5.03 leads the class. Damn well leads the class in the power four. Excuse me. Has an 11.5 yards after the catch per reception. Much like to what Drew is stating, I'm in numbers mode. I use, so just a disclosure for my process is, for me, it's easier to look at numbers and then go back and look at film and be like, okay, do these things match up? I think for me, it's easier. It's easier to narrow down my focus that way. So when you're looking at all these things, the guy just jumps off the chart. He has the highest quarterback rating when targeted metric. The only thing, I guess, if you want to use height as another discriminating factor, but the thing here is that over his course of his career, his usage has not been great. Like he has only played last year. He played 21.2% of the time in the slot. Not great, Bob. Right. So it's one of those things where it's like he's used as like a receiving option, like in a break glass in case of emergency only role, which you would hope that again, landing spot, very dependent. He probably, if he's not even getting invited to the combine, he
might not go drafted.
Not even get drafted, maybe an undrafted free agent. But at the same time, somebody that everything is there. It's just the opportunity needs to be presented to him.
Yeah. He needs more time. I mean, he's from Canada, went to Maine for a couple of years, Montana State. He's newer to the game, but he's not that small. I mean, he's similar size as Sadiq, Stowers, Trigg, all those guys. But fun upside shot.
Yeah, Joe is a diehard Notre Dame fan. I'm really liking your pick here. So tell people why they should be keeping an eye on Eli Raritan.
I think if he had not had 2 ACL injuries in his first year of college, he could. That's a huge thing. He could be tight end 2 in this class. Like
I love it. Yeah.
He's good. I know Connor Rogers.
I totally agree.
NFL stock NBC had him at tight end 2. He's good.
He did.
He needs to refine a lot, and obviously he's still a little slower. Again, 2 ACLs in less than a year is rough, but he's good enough as a blocker and has that you can see on film the talent to improve. His receiving metrics are crazy. I think they're top level as well. I just had that screen open and I closed it like a silly goose. Where did I put it?
I was going to say,
I think his yards per route runs 2.1.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Good ADOT, good hands. Like yards after catch is good. 2/3 contested catch rate. Like, dude's awesome.
He's the guy, Joe. He's the guy, right? That we're like, you draft late in your fantasy draft, and you just put him on the taxi. You sit on him for 2 years, 3 years, and all of a sudden you're like, bam, where did that guy come from? Oh, he's got healthy. He learned the system. He's in the mix because, dude, he's got great size. He's got great size. The numbers aren't great, but like Notre Dame did not throw the ball much. And like you said, the knee injuries. He's one of my favorite guys to take. Like if you are in a deep draft where you can stash taxi squad players, I love him in that mode. My favorite guys to take late in drafts are tight ends. Stash those guys for 2 or 3 years. I think he could be legit good. I love where you're at, Joe. I read your.
I have him at tight end 6 NFL in
on
fantasy, and I think I want to move him up to closer to 3-4 range.
Well, I agree with you, Joe. I see. I love what you've done with him because I'm looking at what you talked about him, and I was like, man, I'm like, if you took the injuries out, you took the legit statistics of like his athleticism, everything he does, I think he's probably tight end 3, right? Like to me, him and Max Clare are like, if he's not hurt, him and Max Clare are damn near the same guy, right? Are they not? So you can get him, Max Clare, 2nd round, or you can take Reardon in the 5th round, right?
They are somewhat similar. To Joe's point, the receiving profile looks really good. I mean, 1.53 yards per route run, 13 yards per reception, 5.4 career yards after the catch. The only, I guess you could say, red flag is that his best receiving yardage season in total was 482 yards. But I think you can also contribute that to how Notre Dame runs their offense.
Notre Dame, the Irish,
no pun intended, the way they literally run their offense by just running the fuck out of the ball.
Why wouldn't you though? I mean,
but whenever you have Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in your backfield, it's hard to blame you for doing that. And so I think the only quote unquote red flag in his receiving profile, I think, can be pretty easily explained away. And then whenever you look at the per catch numbers, the yards per route run, yards per reception, yards after the catch, those all look, they're not elite, but they look really solid. And he's obviously got the size. And so there's a lot to like there. I can definitely see. I can't quite put him in the same, at least from what I've watched so far, I can't quite put him in the same tier as Max Clare, but I do think he's
his
right
film
there.
is still super up and down, which I think a lot of it is the recovery, but that's why I think I have a 3rd round grade on him, 4th round maybe. But he's not in Claire's. I just saying it's a wish casting if he wasn't hurt. I think he has that talent and ability, but I agree. You can't put him there right now.
I think we're all higher on him than the NFL will be, basically. But
I could see an NFL team taking him 3rd round just with how many tight ends are just taking their flavor.
That would be great, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
JT, it sounds like you're in on Raritan as well.
Yep. I'll throw my last guy in here and I'll be quick, which I haven't been quick all night, but I'll be quick. I got to get to bed, you assholes. Shut the fuck up. Oscar Delp, 4
Speaking of poorly used players.
Dude.
Yeah,
just
seriously.
Elite athlete, man. Georgia, outside of Bowers, they just did not get their wide receivers the ball. They didn't get their tight ends the ball. Like, he is a guy that's going to be absolutely underdrafted. People are not going to know his name. Anyone who played CFF or C2C know him because he was an absolute elite prospect getting drafted. Oscar Delp is a guy I'm going to be all over because I feel like no one knows about him because he just didn't do much with Georgia. But he is really good. He's really talented. Here's the thing is, I'm expecting him to blow up at the combine this week. I think he's going to put up elite combine numbers and really move up the draft. And people are going to go, oh, look at that RAS score, which we know.
That matters.
All you guys that pay attention.
Matters the most.
We know RAS score for tight ends might be the most important thing there is, right?
It's up there.
RAS scores for tight end is it. That's it. That's all anyone cares about for tight ends is RAS scores. If you put up a huge RAS score, you know you're a complete athlete. I think he's going to put up a huge RAS score. I think he's going to move way up in drafts. I'm hoping people ignore him. So don't listen to this podcast. I kid you. Listen to the podcast. Don't listen to me talk. Tell me you shut the podcast off before I was talking, which Jorge hoped you did. And draft Oscar Delp because I think Oscar Delp is going to be a stud at the next level. He's going to be a guy and everybody's going to be like, why did we not know more about him? He was on an elite college team and just they didn't throw the ball to him. He's going to be really good, man. I love Oscar Delp's my favorite last pick in every draft.
I want to make a comment here. Folks who are watching and who are listening tonight, I guarantee you strive to have the passion towards fantasy football that JT has, okay? This guy he loves fantasy football. He'll talk about fantasy football. More importantly, and most importantly, he will get you ready to play fantasy football because he will deep dive the you-know-what out of these players, both metrically, film-wise. So when JT gets going, you strap in, you listen, you absorb that knowledge, okay? because he
got to break it down a notch sometimes. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Like,
I get going. I get going.
Like there's a reason why JT does his thing, and you all need to pay attention.
Anyway, just to finish this sleeper talk off, my guy to look at here is Jack Andrews from Texas. I know, Joe, we were talking a bit pre-show. You were deciding between Andrews and Raritan. You took Raritan. I took Andrews.
Flipped a coin.
Yeah. He doesn't do anything necessarily like elite, right? Like nothing pops out, but he does everything at a baseline, like good and pretty solid level, I'd say. So out of all the early day 3 targets we've talked about tonight, I really like Jack Andrews. And I've historically liked the Texas sleeper tight ends, whether that's Jatavian Sanders a couple of years ago, Gunnar Helm last year, and then keep the theme going this year with Jack Andrews.
Aiden, I know a couple sites that were all over Jack Andrews, and they were like absolute first round pick in fantasy with huge tight end premium. I saw like 6 months ago to a year ago, they were all over him. Now, he didn't have the season he had, but people are still on him. I still think Jack Andrews is going to be good. Tight end is typically the number one position that fantasy players and normal people that watch football underappreciate. They don't. The NFL drafts those guys way higher than all of us think they're going to have. I always say Brenton Strange is the number one example. No one was talking about Brenton Strange. 12, 14 catches his senior year, second round pick by the Jacks. They want the RAS scores. They want the athletes. Those are the guys they underlook. I think Andrews is a great pick by you. I think he has absolutely every possibility to be going as a late first round to mid second round pick, because I think NFL teams look at these guys differently than normal people look at them, because they're like, if these tight ends are elite athletes that can help us, they draft them higher. It seems like it happens every year.
Yeah, and I completely unrelated, but with Chigo Kwanko being a free agent this year, I think Gunnar Helm, just back to that point, another sleeper tight end we need to be paying more attention to coming into this year, because I also like Gunnar Helm as a prospect. Just completely unrelated. Just feel like I need to get that.
True. I wrote a monster article about Gunnar Helm as a rookie prospect, and he got hurt at the combine, and I covered it.
Yeah.
His stats were horrible. Everything was terrible. I wrote this thing, and I looked at it, and then later we looked at it, and he almost broke his ankle. It was like it was like the ugliest ankle sprain. I mean, it was bright black, basically. And he tried to fight through. And I was like, I wrote this article on him, like, man, he just totally disappointed. Then, like 4 days later, they came out that he like messed up his ankle on the 40 on the very first thing he did at the draft, at the combine, and tried to fight through. And I was like, oh, he's going to be better than I thought it was going to be because of that. So, yeah, keep an eye on. I love you. I do Gunnar Helm. If you're not looking at Gunnar Helm, Drew, I think you're right. I think he's a guy you should be paying attention to.
Late round quarterback and late round tight end strategies will never die.
Yeah.
Football.
Never die.
Never die. But anyway, Aiden, you get us back on track.
You're good. Anyway, if you're still watching out there, 1, thank you. It's been a blast tonight. But 2, as a final reminder, before
JT didn't run you off already. Still hang out.
Please head over to fantasyandframes.com, which is our site for all our latest amazing article content, IDP, redraft, dynasty, whatever you need, we got over there for you. And if you're looking for specific player debates and dissension between us, if you will, our first batch and run through of rookie rankings is now live on the site. Anyways, also, please note the Dynasty 365 will be back tomorrow night, to discuss how the NFL Combine impacts prospect value specifically in Dynasty fantasy football. And for this iteration of Dynasty 365, we'll be back next week, same time, 10 p.m. Eastern, to go over our rookie RB rankings between the 5 of us. Speaking of the 5 of us, Joe, since this is your debut here with us tonight, 1, thanks for hopping on. It was a blast. But 2, where can the people watching / listening find you? What do you have going on right now? Anything you want people to know?
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a blast. Look forward to being on for at least the next couple months and weeks. You can find me on the interwebs at Jolo63. Remember to brush and floss, especially for your kiddos as the kids' dentistry month ends.
Hell yeah.
Good advice. Drew, what do you got going?
Not much other than hanging out with you guys. But you can find me on Twitter at Drew3Amar. I'll be here hanging out with y'all on the Tuesday night Dynasty 365 After Dark episodes for the next few weeks at least, and then Fourth and Frames, our redraft show. Our redraft show will be kicking back off here in a few more weeks, but until then, I'll be here hanging out, talking Dynasty, and then before we move on, I just want to show some love to a longtime supporter of ours, Mr. Scampers, that came through here to say what's up. Much love, Scampers. Always appreciate the support, man, and looking forward to getting to talk some more ball with you this season as well. So much love. And anybody out there that's been hanging out whether you've been commenting or not, thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight.
Nope, all great points. JT, what's on the horizon for you going forward?
So I usually am at the combine this week. Couldn't go. I had 4 basketball games and a gymnastics tournament I had to go to. Didn't want to abandon the kids. So I passed on I'm the coach. So by the way, I'm like, who am I going to find a coach for? I'm like, that's a dick move by me. So I'm the coach. I'm going to try to win the championship. So, no combine, but I'll be watching it on TV. I will be reevaluating it. I will be putting out all my stuff, offensive and defensive, on DLF. I also will have other remarks on Fantasy and Frames. So I'll have multiple articles coming out over the next week on the draft. I wish I could be there this year, but not going to happen. Kids take first dibs. You know how it goes. You got to do it when they're little. You gotta take them first because you only have so long. So I pulled back and I said, "Yeah, I got to stay home this week and do that." So that's what we're doing, and we're just gonna keep doing shows, man. Me and Jorge shoot the gap coming on. Keep doing drafts. I'm doing rankings every week. Just keep updating. So I'm loving it, man. This is my favorite time of year, man. I love pre-NFL draft, post-NFL draft. I love playing fantasy football, but drafting and ranking and all this stuff early is actually more fun to me than the season. I hate to say that, but it is. It's actually more fun to me than the season. So I'm pumped about everything going on. Follow me at JT Orange on X or the Twitter. And then, I got all my rankings up. Jorge has got me finally on, not because Jorge's problem, because my problem. I'm finally on Fantasy Pros. You can look all my rankings up there. Jorge helped me out because I could not figure it out. So I got all my stuff up there as well. So check that out. I got a ton of articles coming out lately. So just keep an eye out.
Yeah. Jorge, any parting words of wisdom for us tonight?
Yeah, no. So you can find me at Jorge B. Edwards. I'd much rather you follow all these fine gentlemen as well as us over at Fantasy and Frames. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe and notification bell. We'd appreciate it because we got shows and content, whether it's podcast forms, live streams, shorts. We got all sorts of information coming your way, as well as head over to fantasyandframes.com for all the rankings and articles. I'm finally putting on my writer's cap. I got 2 articles coming out by the end of the week, looking at the dynasty targets for the free agents in this year's free agent pool on offense and for IDP. So looking forward to dropping those by the end of the week. And then Aiden, as you mentioned, we got Dynasty 365 tomorrow night at 8 p.m. where we're basically looking at combine metrics and how does this translate to fantasy? Why should I care about these metrics? And so we're going to cover that. And then JT, you and I are going to be doing the exact same thing tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the defensive side of the ball. So a lot of good stuff coming out.
Yeah. As for myself, so speaking of free agency, Jorge, I just released a couple articles on our site, again, fantasyandframes.com, that you can check out where, I preview the RB position for the top free agents 12 to be exact, 6 in part 1, 6 in part 2. But I put a fun twist on it. I explored 2 different avenues for each running back / player. What would be their 2026 fantasy outlook if they stayed with their current team? And what would their 2026 fantasy outlook for next season if they switched teams and signed elsewhere in a few weeks? And what that specific landing spot would be. So please check that out. And I'm sure I'll always be working out articles in the future. We got free agency coverage, instant reactions coming out just like last year, all of that. So,
Aiden, can I say one more thing?
Sorry, yeah.
I think all of us here would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Jim Bednar, who is our producer behind the scenes, who hooks up all of our graphics, which we dropped a bunch of graphics here on our Twitter pages and on fantasyandframes.com and our Instagram pages. Literally, this guy does all these creative concepts. He, like I said, makes the graphics. He sets up the studios. We've been putting him to work like crazy.
Yeah. He takes it though.
But he enjoys it. He loves it, and we just want to give a little shout out to Jim, saying we appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you, Jim. So for myself,
Scampers, congrats on the new gig, man.
Sorry.
Nice, congratulations.
That's big. So for myself, Joe, JT, Jorge, and Drew, and Jim behind the scenes, we'll see you all tomorrow night.